Good evening, Canby. Welcome to City Council work session. Tonight, the council will be having some conversation about municipal court caseload and prosecution of misdemeanor crimes and city attorney services. So we have a whole cadre of people here to talk about that with us. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Stein to take us through the evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We do have, this is kind of a dual purpose workshop. The last time that you discussed this was in November, and I thought it might make sense to address city attorney services as well as the municipal court, because those were kind of clumped together last time, and we have updates on those both. So we're going to talk first about the caseload for the municipal court, and then secondarily, we'll give a status report on the cost spent to date on the outside city attorney firm. So if you recall, back in November, you had, the council decision was to wait until we knew what the legislative session produced in terms of how it was going to treat small amounts of drugs. So, George, I wouldn't mind if you would just give an update on what the legislature decided.
So
and
real quick,
go from
right?
there.
I mean, I'm sure most of you know, I know Tracy was down there for a lot of it. So I think it's House Bill 4002, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So Measure 110, right, was making user amount of drugs into a violation. Well, House Bill 4002 changed it to a unclassified misdemeanor now. So small amounts of drugs are now criminalized again, which is good. There's some other things on there, but mainly it's now a Class U misdemeanor. There is a deflection piece, which is kind of a diversion piece where the person that is arrested for the drugs could go this deflection piece, and we're still figuring that out. But Clackamas County Circuit Court is working on that piece as we speak, actually. So, yeah.
So that's the piece that we were waiting for before you continued to discuss whether or not you wanted to take over the, retake over the small Class C misdemeanors. So really, that's the decision tonight is, do you want to continue to, or take that caseload back, or do you want to keep things how they are currently?
So I guess to start with, in light of all this, what are the pros and cons?
Judge?
I mean, do we bring it back in-house? Do we leave it at the county?
I would say one thing about it. So either one, right? I mean, I've said before, there's, either way, it works out, I think, pretty well, right? I mean, there's some strengths of bringing it back and some strengths of leaving it up at circuit court. The one thing I would recommend is that the drug cases, right, even though they're misdemeanors, is to still refer them to the circuit court, because they're going to have this deflection piece, and that takes some time and effort and money to do, and they're going to be set up for it. I have talked to the DA, John Wentworth, about it, and I said, hey, if misdemeanors come back to our court, would you be willing to take the drug cases? And technically, he has to take them. He wasn't totally happy. He said, well, I'd rather have all or nothing, but he would take, the drug cases if we refer them up to circuit court. Okay. So I would recommend that. If it comes back here, right, everything else, and I don't know what the judge thinks of that part of it, but I would recommend the drug cases to go up there.
Judge?
Well, I think historically, I could be wrong about this, but I believe that the drug cases pretty much were always up at circuit court.
Because they were felonies. So before, right, they were all felonies, so they had to go up there, right?
And so
now that they're misdemeanors, they could technically come to our court.
But the difference is with the deflection and all the rest of the stuff that goes along with that piece of legislation, and frankly, I'm glad I don't have to figure out how to deal with all of that. It should just stay with circuit court because they've got the resources to handle that.
And the other part is domestic violence cases.
Right, and those were always
Even
up
if
there.
there were misdemeanors, they would still
went
go up
up.
there because they have some
Those were always
staffing
up
for
there
that,
too,
yeah.
So a lot of that deals with the outside resources that the circuit court has to deal with those particular kind of cases, and the treatment issues and the domestic violence counseling and all the rest of that is all in place up there. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. In terms of the other misdemeanors, my position hasn't changed. The city had always prosecuted those misdemeanors, everything from theft and criminal mischief to driving under the influence and Class A, all the Class A vehicle issues, all of those things were always prosecuted here. And, they're committed here. And part of the reason you've got the court is to keep that stuff local so you can police it better, is that the right word? I don't
More local control, right?
Yeah, but, and for instance, a lot of the community service that some of these people that we have now they'll do at the local Kiwanis, or they'll do at the local senior center, or, with nonprofits that are in the area. If it stays in circuit court, you don't have any control over that. They plug it into their community service program through the county. I just think it makes sense to keep it local. It's always been here. I'm not going to go into all of the machinations about how it ended up in circuit court. But the reality is that we still have everything in place here to do it. And the attorneys that were doing the work as the court-appointed staff are still on board. The prosecutor's still here. We still have criminal dockets because we kept all of the things that were on probation and newly charged up through the 1st of July of 2022. All of those cases are still working their way through. And I don't know, there are some defendants that have made a history of not showing up in court, and those guys might be with us for the next 20 years the way they're going. But sooner or later, even those guys end up in court and we can deal with it. But we still have all of that. I call it the infrastructure. It's all still there and it's all in place and ready to go. In terms of, well, I don't see any disadvantages, I guess, to bringing it back. I think, it's easier on the officers when it goes to trial. They don't have to go to the courthouse and sit and have their case reset, after they've sat there all day.
Yeah, it is convenient to have it, right, it's closer.
And, I think the officers, I haven't taken a poll of them or anything, but the sense I get is that they'd like to have them back here too.
Yeah, I mean, the convenience piece is
Yeah.
nice, and that little local
Yeah.
control is pretty nice. And it really doesn't change anything for us, right? We still, right, if they commit a crime in town, if it's a misdemeanor fellow, right, we still investigate, cite, or take to jail. We just mark which court it is, right?
Right.
Is it community court or is it circuit court? And that's, again, crimes inside the city limits. So if there's something, right, 99 in Barlow, that's a crime that we happen to take, or a DUI, that will still go into circuit court. So it's just crimes that occur in the city that are misdemeanors that would go back here if it comes back, so.
Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my understanding that the smaller thefts, like somebody, took a six-pack of beer from 7-Eleven or something, that those tend to get dismissed up there because they're kind of not worth the time being such a low dollar amount. That's kind of the understanding I have. Is that correct?
It varies. They don't have a set, but I'll give an example of one that I saw, a couple weeks ago. I think it was a shoplift at Wilco, right? It was $15, right? The person was trespassed from Wilco. We arrested him, took him to jail, and then they were released after process, right? And there, the circuit court sent us that we're not going to prosecute this because we feel it's not, worth the time, that he's already been trespassed, he's already been taken to jail, there's nothing more we could do. And they didn't have a record, so they don't have a set limit, but they will consider those type of things where maybe here it would be prosecuted. I don't know. That's up to
Right.
you.
And that's what I'm concerned about is I see and hear from people that I know who work in the retailers here in town, and I know that theft is kind of a problem, and I we're kind of getting a reputation that if you want to take something from Fred Meyer, go to Canby. So I don't want that. I think bringing that back here sends a message to our businesses that we care about them and their business and that we're going to get harder on these things. And I like the local control too, where if they have to do community service, then that community service is done back in the community that they harmed. So I'm absolutely in favor for bringing it back with the caveat of continuing sending the drug and DV cases up to the circuit court.
Councilor Patton.
Yeah, so I think it was pretty clear as far as, whether people are targeting Canby because it's easier to steal her here or not. I don't know about that. I think in the last presentation we had, it showed that there was not that much of a statistical difference between dismissals from when it was here compared to when it was up at the county, if memory serves me correctly. It was within, it was within 2 or 3%, which is not a huge statistical anomaly. To me, I have no problem bringing it in-house. I am all for local control as well. And I agree that if they can be serving community service here in our community, because I would love to have them help me pick weeds along 99E and stuff, that'd be great. Do those sort of things. I guess one of my primary questions is, as I understand it, the city is paying a certain amount for the county to process these cases for us on our behalf. Is that correct? Or we're just sending them to them and they're just doing it?
They have to. By
They
law,
have to.
take, because they are the district court, so they have to take the law. So we do not pay them anything.
Oh, really? Okay.
They get the fines from, let's say, that they impose, right?
Uh-huh.
Where the city wouldn't, the city does not.
Oh, okay. So that's where kind of the benefit for them to doing it is that they're getting the revenue from those fines where we are not. Is that the case?
Yeah, and I don't know how much benefit or how much they get, but yes.
I don't know how they process
Yeah.
that or split it up either.
Right.
So
I kind of see where the DA is coming from, that, for us to send some of our dirty laundry up there while we are keeping some of our own dirty laundry does seem a little strange. But I'm hoping that I agree that I think it would be better for those to be processed up there rather than here. For me, I just am curious as to what sort of financial impact this will have on our current system, because if are you essentially still working the same amount of time? Like, will there be an increase in the amount of time court will be operating and stuff if we bring these back in-house, or have we not experienced that lull yet? Because you were saying that we're still processing cases.
I guess the way I would answer that is that the court is currently 1.5 days a month.
Okay.
It's originally was 2 full days a month. And I believe that the court-appointed attorneys are still on the same contract amount they were then.
Okay.
So in terms of impact to them, I don't think there's much. There would be no impact to me because I'm just always available, and the time, well, I don't want to put it that way.
We're going to have court 5 days a week, folks.
I'm always available
I was going to say,
as required.
as asked.
Yeah, but in the past, I've been here, we've had criminal courts on the first and the second court days in the morning. Currently, we don't have that. We just have them on the first court day because there, isn't enough to do it on both days. But like I say, everything is still in place to do that. And my compensation is geared around that kind of structure, along with being available to do the jury trials and that sort of thing that happen, and swearing in council members when there isn't a sheet of ice on the road. And but it's so in terms of that impact anyway, I'm not really sure I know.
Okay.
I guess that's the best
Can
one.
I ask something about the financials?
Yeah,
So,
Come to the microphone.
Yeah, come on up to the mic.
by all means.
so we, as far as expenses that are associated with criminal court, nothing's really changed. There, as Judge Graff said, the contracts for the public defenders, we've been paying the same amount since criminal court stopped because we've had this continued docket of cases that are just in our pipeline that we've never gotten, that we haven't finished yet, which we still have quite a few. So as far as the financial impact right now, it won't impact our expenses will continue the way they have been, except for we'll have that income coming in from criminal cases to offset that. So we've been still paying the same amount of expenses without the income coming in from the criminal cases, the revenue. So
So it's
It's-
a benefit then?
yeah,
Help offset.
there isn't going to be much of a change as far as the finances, because it's pretty much stayed in place.
Okay.
So,
And just as a follow-up, did we, knowing that this was going to get phased out over time, was there anything put in the budget to dial down the amount for court in there over time, or was it being budgeted the same?
yeah, so the budget for last year was projected to decrease, but that was based on us revisiting public defenders' contracts and the assumption that court would phase out quickly. And it hasn't, because at the time, I can't remember how many cases we had on probation. We had over 100 cases on probation when we stopped taking cases. Those cases have continued, including another 100 and something warrants still on our drawer from previous cases. So the previous budget was set based on the assumption that we would start to save some expenses, but it hasn't. We haven't, because everything stayed the same, because it's taken so long to phase out court.
So basically, we've been working on those with no,
Correct.
I guess we'll say
Yeah,
revenue.
we've been paying the same amount of
fines.
expenses while losing the revenue from criminal.
So I am in the process of reviewing budget submittals from the departments currently. I haven't reviewed municipal courts yet. We were kind of waiting until tonight's work session before we did that. But I will, I think there was maybe a slight increase in FTE proposed for municipal court. So that would be offset by this revenue, is the idea.
Okay.
So,
Counselor Stearns?
One question and maybe a comment on my opinion afterwards, but am I understanding that some violations of the city code are misdemeanors? Isn't
That's
that
correct.
Okay. How much,
No, we just processed
That
them.
was changed, because
Yeah.
when it went to, when we sent everything up to district court, circuit court, that was changed in the ordinance to make all, and there was only a few, okay, misdemeanor code violations, those were changed to violations.
okay, so right now there are no
Nope.
misdemeanors, so all code violations right now,
Our violations would be through our court regardless.
regardless. Okay, so currently, anything that we as a governmental body decide is a bad thing to do would go into for the city court to adjudicate that eventually.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was my question, I wasn't sure about. But my comment is that I am strongly in favor of local control over as much as can be practically involved for local control. As far as our criminal justice system and even most other justice systems, civil, you end up usually with three different judges. One is the police officer who decides that violations occurred. One is the prosecutor who decides whether to prosecute, and the third is the actual judge or the jury, however that may be. And because of that, the prosecutor has a lot of power over who gets prosecuted or not. I deal with that in the civil context with taxes all the time. We take things to court, we actually very rarely see the judge. It's most often settled, but it's the threat of the judge that causes the case to move, otherwise it wouldn't. But because of that, I think that we have local control over the police department, and we should have local control over the prosecution as well. So that's my reasoning and why that should happen. And it doesn't sound like it's that big of a budget issue, but even if it were a bigger budget issue, as long as it wasn't undoable, I would still be in favor of having it locally.
Counselor Patton.
So you were saying you have all these warrants that are sitting in a drawer. By bringing it in locally, is there a way to tidy that up faster?
We've discussed in the past doing like a warrant sweep with local police to try to get some of the people that we know live locally that have had warrants out. But resources just haven't let it happen yet. But there are ways to try to process those. There also is, there's procedures that some of those warrants could probably be written off and closed out at some point because they've been in there for a really long time. That's just working with the city prosecutor to see if that's something that we could close out and get off our system, so.
I'll add something. If there's somebody in our city that has a warrant, our officers will find them.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
Yes. But if they're in Barlow, I don't know. They're all fleeing to Barlow.
True. Our officers do find their people very quickly,
Well,
so.
it may come as a great surprise, but some officers are well acquainted with some of the
Yeah.
people from prior warrant arrests.
Oh, yeah.
So
A
frequently.
couple other comments I would just like to make when speaking to John Wentworth, the DA, about this, right? He says he's fine with either decision. He would just like the most advanced warning as possible because, we send 400 cases, misdemeanor cases to him a year, right? So he may have to adjust staffing, right, for it. We gave him a lot of time when we moved. So he would like the most possible, right? Time on that. And then the other thing, sorry, Lucy, that I'll ask, and I brought it up last time, is it is very helpful for officers to get the decline notices, right? So right now, when we send any crime to the DA's office, the assistant DA that gets assigned, right, writes if it gets declined and the reasons why, like the Wilco one, right, that was $15. This is why we're not doing it. So we keep this in the one, it's great feedback for the officer to know, and then we keep it in our case file. So that's one thing that I would request, again, sorry, Lucy, because she would be the one doing it as the prosecutor, but it is very helpful for our officers to have that and to see that. And sometimes it's a learning thing, right? I mean, it's for them, so.
Don't need to be sorry.
Well, and I think if we are bringing this back in, then that is something that needs to be memorialized in the process. There's no sense of, if there's things that need to be changed that we learn from previous mistakes, there's no point in just rebooting the system as is. It's implement those things and move them forward in a positive way.
Presumably, timeframe wise,
Yeah. I was going to ask, since I wasn't here when this was undone, was there a ordinance or resolution or something that was done to formalize this, and does that need to be
Not that
redone?
we're aware of.
Okay,
Not that I remember.
okay.
It was just kind of done when we were told about it.
And I want to say it was about 6 weeks, wasn't it?
It was quick notice. We started July 1, 2020,
Yeah, I don't.
no,
I mean, we've had this discussion when it went with the DA up there we gave him a heads up that it may be coming down to about a year, and then about 6 months that it looked like it was going to happen, so we gave him plenty of notice when we were sending the cases like that.
So would it make sense to have this effective July 1st?
That's what I was thinking
I would
for
say
budget reasons.
Yeah, at the late, yeah. Yes, I mean, I think he would want even more notice, but I think that's doable, I mean, it's a new fiscal year and people
Sure.
have budgets now, so it's a good timing if
Is
we
that-
are going to do it.
Yeah, and he kind of already knows we're talking about this,
Yes, he does.
so, okay.
Counselor Patton.
I think with the ups and downs of this, I think and I'm not sure what other people think, but I think it would be important for either some representatives of the city and/or of this council to meet with the DA face-to-face and explain to him what's going on, rather than saying the city council is just doing this and voila. I do not with everything that's been going on, I do not wish to leave blood in the water on this and have some sort of, friction between the two different agencies. So I think, I don't know what other people think, but I think that would be a reasonable request.
Well, I think that since this was done administratively, it can be undone administratively, and I think a nice phone call from Ms. Stein would be sufficient. I don't think we need to meet with the DA. Do you, Mr. Mayor?
No, I was just going to say, the DA was on that, one of our meetings where we had a conversation. He, I think, made his wishes known, which I think George reiterated earlier. So again, I think he knows that conversation is happening. We can't be the only city that's looking at changing this up with the recent change with, Measure 110 and the House Bill 4002. I mean, is it goodwill? Yeah, it might be goodwill to do. And so I think that's something that, either, somebody from staff can reach out and do that. I don't think there's,
Happy to do that. I mean, I have a good.
or even you, yeah.
Leave that conversation.
Because I think they understand what our intent is and why. So that's my piece of that. Yes, Daniel.
Even though I agree with you that it probably can be done administratively, but I don't know if it's appropriate or not from a legal standpoint, but I think it'd be good to have the council to vote, just to record that it was the will of the council and not, when we're talking about it, 4 years from now, say, oh, the city administrator decided to change it. And, what I'm saying, I'm thinking, since we kind of, I think, mostly agree on it, that it'd be good just to say, formalize it in some way or other as appropriate through the process.
Would be a
That's what we
resolution or
decided.
ordinance?
It would be a resolution, and I would agree. It would be nice to have something to point to that says, per this resolution, we could certainly memorialize the undoing of it in that same resolution, but also say the reasons why the city is reinstating the program. And I'm going to, since David is here, I'm going to call on him and say, do you agree?
Yeah, hear me okay, everybody?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. I do, yeah, I think that makes good sense. The history for me, obviously, kind of like Eileen, it's not there. So I don't know if there were code changes made to implement this at all. We'd want to be sure if there were that we, address those. But as a broad matter, with a policy shift like this, I think it makes sense to do something like a resolution, makes good sense. And then if there are things code-wise that would need to be shifted, we can do those by ordinance.
And the other issue that just kind of came up while we were talking is that as part of this change that happened 3 years ago, we decided that all the misdemeanors would be turned into violations. Now, I don't know if that's a bad decision or a good decision, but I think if that was the reason for the decision, it might be good to relook at it and decide whether we want to change things back to misdemeanors or not. I'm not saying I would want to, but if we're going to reverse this, we might as well look at what we're reversing and see if it's appropriate or not. If there is anything that would be appropriate to turn back into a misdemeanor, if that's something that we have the power to do, just to make it. I'm in favor of making these clear and formal rather than, one day one thing, one day the next thing.
Sure.
Did we change those from misdemeanor to violations by
Yes, and there was,
ordinance?
I think, only 3, if I recall. One is like alcohol in the city park was a misdemeanor. Now it's a violation, and probably better as a violation, in my opinion, right?
Reduced to one anyway.
Yeah, and it would be reduced to a violation anyway, so it might stay, and I think there's one interfering that we probably don't want to change back to a crime, because there's already one in state statutes. So I don't think there is any. I could relook at those and double check, but I don't think.
It'd be good to look at it. I mean, I'm not saying, sometimes things are better left as, violations rather than misdemeanors, but I wouldn't want it, the reason for being a misdemeanor versus a violation just be a convenience on our part. If it's something that deserves to be a misdemeanor, it should be misdemeanor. If it doesn't, then it shouldn't.
Remain a violation. I would agree.
Councilor Patton.
Well, and I agree with Counselor Stearns, and I guess for me, I'm a little confused because in as far as us, communicating our will to the DA and saying that's not necessary because this was done administratively. Yes, it was done administratively, and as I understand it, it was this council that had a great deal of consternation with it being done administratively and not them having involvement in it. The council is now taking involvement in it, and so, in my opinion, I think that we should have some sort of involvement in it all the way through the process. If a majority of people don't think that's the case, that's fine, but I just think that if we wanted to stick our hands in this and do this, then we need to follow it all the way through.
So what aspects are you suggesting that?
I would like to see that when Chief Tro and Eileen get on the phone with the DA, either you or Council President Hensley or someone from this council is on that call as well, to show that as a city, we are moving forward as a solid front all together in the making of this decision.
Okay.
Okay.
Any disagreement with that at all, or?
Nope, that'd be fine.
Okay. Did you have a comment?
No, I was going to ask him what you asked him, so.
Okay.
Good.
So we will bring back a resolution formalizing this decision, and we'll get it on your agenda as soon as possible. The resolution will say that this decision is going into effect July 1st, 2024, and we will take a look at if there's any code changes. As David said, those would need to be done by ordinance rather than resolution. So if there's any code changes, we will look at that as well to restore any violations to a misdemeanor.
Okay. Chief Tro, how much was the transition time the last time? From it being here to going to
I
county?
mean, I talked to him about a year early, but it was about 6 months when it looked like it was going to happen, and it was about 6 months' time.
Okay, so what we're suggesting being 6 weeks
Yeah.
seems to be,
Well, more than 6 weeks.
It's April.
It's April, so it's 3
Well,
months.
July 1st.
I guess by the time we do the
90 days.
resolution though,
Oh, right.
to
So we could
officially,
give him
Well, it's 2.5 months.
so is that enough?
But he could be notified before that resolution.
Sure.
Done, right, yeah.
But again, is that still,
I mean, all he requested was the more time, the better.
It's probably easier to rearrange staff out of there than it was to probably bring them back in. It seems like it'd be easier for him to unwind than to wind it up, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if that's a layoff for him. I don't know,
Oh, shit,
right?
yeah.
so can I just maybe suggest council that direct staff to maybe open that dialogue on, I mean, yes, July 1st would be fantastic, but if that's going to mean more time needed, maybe it's an August 1, maybe it's end of the summer, September 1, I don't know.
Yeah. I
I don't want to delay it
July-
and stretch it out any further, but considering it took, we'll say 6 months to ramp it up, how much, is it easier to undo it? I don't know, that's not, but it'd be worth asking the
I mean, I
question.
could easily make that call and say, hey, they're looking at July 1st. Will that work? I mean,
Yeah, I think we only landed on July 1st because the budget
Right.
is clean.
Councilor Patton?
Well, I think we need to negotiate with him what a reasonable period of time is, because if we gave him that much time, I think for us to just say, we're going to do July 1, because, and I come back to our conversations as a council with our staff, right? We say, well, we want to do fiscal planning so that we aren't bringing people on and then having to go ahead and fire them after we bring them back on. We are essentially doing this to the DA. They brought people on expecting that this would come up to them. And now we are changing our policy, and I would hate to be that person that was brought on thinking that I was going to have a job because the city of Canby did X, Y, and Z, and now all of a sudden they're changing their mind. So that, to me, is why I'm sort of stressing we need to have some very good communication and dialogue with him and make an amicable decision on when this is all going to change. as to not bloody the water, because we're going to need this gentleman to continue to do work for us. And I think that is imperative that we keep that in mind.
Agreed. Yeah, just be good neighbors.
I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
I mean, and it's county. I mean, county, they're fine. They got a whole new, what, $90 million building going up? 130 million?
If you saying that screws up getting money for the county roads,
No,
I swear.
it does.
I swear.
I meant it tongue in cheek.
Well, I think, I might just throw out there that the DA's office probably has a certain amount of turnover. And that, in my view, I don't think 2.5 months is too short a period of time. I don't think you'd have a problem accommodating that.
Okay, well, doesn't hurt to ask, goodwill,
Doesn't hurt to
in
ask.
case we have to go ask for money for, county roads and city property. Don't want to burn that bridge, Jason.
Like if he says 12 months and we say 6 months, and then you got to sort of wheel and deal. It's like a yard sale, maybe.
Not even close. Okay. Does that close out that topic?
That solves,
Thank
that
you,
closes out
Jessica.
that topic, yes.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. We will follow up with the DA tomorrow. Thank you, George. Yeah.
Thanks, Judge.
The second item is what to do with the city attorney contract. As you know, we have an in-house city attorney for the time being. We have spent through February of 2024, we've spent $65,214 on the city attorney. Given we have a lot of legal work going on at the moment, I'm thinking that we're probably going to put in about $100,000 in our projected fiscal year '24 figure. And I'm projecting that it will probably be about $115,000 to $120,000. Barry Elsner and Hammond did give us a rate increase. I think I sent that out to the council. So there's that cost. The in-house city attorney was budgeted at $230,000 in fiscal year '23-24. That's projected to go up if we were to budget for right now, the budget is still in the personnel line item for city attorney. So this decision is going to impact that, but we're budgeting $249,000 for FY '24-25 for an in-house city attorney. So,
And you said
that's.
115 for Barry Elster?
I'm thinking the projection will be about $100,000, and that if we went with Barry Elsner or a contract city attorney for next fiscal year, that I probably would budget about $115,000 or $120,000. Might be a little low, I don't know. Just depends again on the city's legal caseload fluctuates. But that's what I would probably budget. If that's the comparison, it certainly looks like it costs less to have a contract city attorney. What we don't have a good price on yet is just that day-to-day going down the hall versus contacting the city attorney. I want to say that Barry Elsner and Hammond has been very responsive and very reasonable. I have not had a problem with Barry Elsner and their responsiveness, but it is not like having, leadership team meetings and you've got your lawyer sitting right there in the meeting and being able to kind of advance, what the thoughts are right there and help kind of shape the decision-making as it goes. So we don't have that, but we, if we have to bring Barry Elsner in into the picture, the responsiveness has been very, very good. So.
Okay. Yes.
What would, I don't know if this question's for Eileen or for Mr. Doofman, but what would it look like to have him zoom into the leadership team meetings? Because I figure like having another hour a week, or, an hour, 4 hours a month is going to be a lot less expensive than having a full-time attorney. I mean, we're talking 50% more. So I'm thinking a few more hours a month might be less expensive and still have the benefit of having our attorney present in the team leadership meetings.
I'm going to refer that question to David. So,
Yeah, sure. I don't see that being an issue. Certainly, we make time, and we've done that in other contexts for different clients where we might. It's been a while. We've even gone so far as to have like office hours in different communities. But the idea of having a sort of regular. Whether it's a management meeting, Eileen and I and Maya already do, a version of that every 2 weeks. So that's certainly not I think a big hurdle on the firm's end.
And wouldn't maybe even need to be weekly, maybe every other week he joins you based on what you feel you need. I wouldn't have a problem with having him join the meeting, just to not have $249,000 on the budget.
Do you, Eileen, do you see the value of every week having a representative from BEH there for the leadership team meetings? If you had, shake your magic 8 ball and asked it, do we need, an attorney at those meetings every week? What would the magic 8 ball say?
this magic 8 ball would say things are working fine. But when I talk to the leadership team, they still would rather have an in-house city attorney. So that's hard to say, because I think that, that I think things are working fine. But if you ask them, they would prefer to have an in-house counsel, so.
$125,000 can get.
So if we lowered their budgets to offset, no?
They
Okay.
wouldn't like that.
Councilor Patton?
So I guess for me, one of the things I had requested this number, but do we have the monthly breakdown of what this number is? Because I
Yes.
have a suspicion about this number, and I would like to see how it pencils out.
What's your suspicion?
My suspicion is that in the beginning, we weren't using the service a lot. And now as we're going, it's progressively going up every month. And as we get into doing our comprehensive plan, and we start talking about updating city codes, and we start doing all of these projects, it is going to require more time of the city attorney. And my fear, and I've mentioned this before, that one of the consternations that I had was that there are day-to-day questions that might seem innocent and innocuous enough that the city staff is not asking. But if Snowball can very quickly end up having the city in a lawsuit that could be quite a bit more expensive. And at the time I was saying these things, there was some scoffing and questioning. But I can tell you right now that at least in a few meetings that we've had, I've mentioned something about having the city attorney look at things, or we've talked about having the city attorney do things, and the will of the council is to try and avoid that expense if at all possible. Whereas in the past, that expense would not have been avoided. We would have just called up the city attorney to make sure that our tukuses were covered. So that is why I am not ready to give up on watching this track. And quite frankly, I'm not ready to just say we can reduce that amount by $100 and some odd thousand and put it somewhere else in the budget, Because if all of a sudden we get another year and a half into this and we figure out that really having a city attorney is more cost effective, now that money is somewhere else in the budget, and trying to wrest it from that area to put it back in here and bring on that service is going to be difficult. In a perfect world, what I would love, and what I want to say about working with David and Barry Elsner and Hammond in general, that's been very cool, is that they have a team of specialists, right? So David does certain things, this, that, and the other. To me, and I think other cities do this, and I think Canby is getting to the size where this would maybe be necessary, where we have a city attorney that deals with a lot of the day-to-day cover the tookest questions, but when we have those more nitty-gritty questions about employment law and different things like that, we then go to Barry Elsner and Hammond, and they help our city attorney figure those things out. So in a perfect world, that's what I would like to see. I know that there's a majority of council that is vehemently against that, and my goal is to continue to beat this drum and hopefully change people's minds.
You mean wear them down?
Or that too.
Yeah. No, and Jason, there is huge benefit to having an in-house attorney, absolutely. I mean, being here on the day-to-day kinds of things, I agree with you. It was a benefit when it was that way, so I don't disagree with you. Councilor Stern, do you have a comment or question?
Sure. I'm not strongly in favor of one or the other. If there's a really good, competent attorney hired as a city attorney, I think that would be very useful. If it's a bad attorney that's hired, it'd be very unuseful. The advantage I see right now to the current situation, which I like, is the team of experts. Whereas I know, dealing with law myself, that so often people come to me and I have to go either hire other attorneys or they have to hire other attorneys because it's really hard to have one person know everything. The second thing is that I'm kind of concerned about, and it has to do with some of the, sometimes we're always fighting the last battle that was fought, but I like the fact that there's probably a inherent conflict of interest with a city employee being a city attorney, whether it's active or not active, there's always some level of that. And of course, and I see all the time the effects of conflict of interest. I've just got done with a case, $600,000 case, where definitely the person they went to first had a conflict of interest, and that can be very damaging. I like the fact that having an outside firm is probably a lot of ability to reduce that sort of inherent conflict of interest that you have when you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis and then having to give legal advice that may go against their interests. And it's just a human thing. It's not necessarily because attorneys aren't robots, they're humans. So that's one of the advantages I see with having an outside firm cover our legal basis. Because my understanding, well, without going into lots of detail, it doesn't need to go in detail, that there may have been some issues in the past with city attorney maybe not having, conflict of interest, and that's something I'm in fact, I'm going to teach a class in a couple of months about conflict of interest to other people, but, so I'm doubly aware of it that way. So that's the advantage of having an outside firm, is that conflict of interest. Now, I can say in a perfect world, we have both an outside firm and an inside person, but maybe that's more than the budget can allow or should allow. But I do like kind of the way it is, but I'm not opposed if it's a really good attorney to have an in-house attorney, because it can be very useful be able to ask questions. So the advantages of having the in-house attorney we've already talked about is the ability to have people you can just ask questions to all the time. And if he's a good attorney, then that's a good thing. If it's a bad attorney, that's a bad thing. And I've seen good attorneys and bad attorneys. So they just because they have a JD at the end of their name doesn't mean they're good. So I see that as the benefit. The disadvantage of having in-house is the cost and the lack of with the risk of a conflict of interest issues and, or maybe lack of independence, be a better way of saying it. I don't want to make accusations, I just know it's a potential that's out there all the time. And the lack of a team of experts. Now, if we have an in-house attorney, he could compensate for the lack of experts and still have budgeted for outside counsel for different matters, so that can be mitigated. But as far as the conflict of interest and stuff, that the city attorney reports to the council directly, and so since it reports to the council directly, we as a council would have to be double up on our job of supervising the in-house in-house counsel or in-house attorney. The advantage of going with the current route seems to be a lower cost, although hopefully we're not sacrificing legal services with that lower cost. I think that's the risk that Councilor Patton's talking about, the risk that we are not always getting counsel when we maybe need it or should have it or might be convenient. So there's that as a downside, but I think there's a lot of plus sides to having this firm. You know, they have lots, and then there's the whole issue about, you know, days off, that sort of thing, that where a larger firm can cover, like, okay, so-and-so is on vacation, we can have somebody else step in, but with a city attorney goes on vacation, who steps in? You know, unless we have assistant city attorney. I mean, obviously, get big enough budget, we could cover that, but, you know, bad things seem to happen that we need attorneys for, usually at a time when attorneys are not always available. So that I think there's an advantage. So I just wanted to share my thoughts with you on that. So that's just my impressions. I don't know if they make any sense.
A couple of thoughts on that, Councilor Stearns. So generally, so our last city attorney was, their strong suit was definitely not, like, for example, land use. So we did use outside, I believe it was Barry Elsner and Hammond was our firm that we used for when land use stuff came up that our city attorney wasn't well versed on. So we already contracted that team of experts in that regards. We have a separate urban renewal district attorney on our payroll as well. Just again, that's just, I think, common practice, number one. Number two, just urban renewal law being, like you said before, a specific entity to be knowledgeable on versus, let's see, what's that? You know, knowledgeable on everything but an expert on nothing. And so being able to draw into that team piece. We've had our city attorney, you know, go on a 2-week vacation and it not, I don't know how much of a problem it occurred, but most of that stuff was handled either before they left or it was timed out to be done before they went on the vacation. So, I mean, I hear your points. That's just some of the.
We can mitigate a lot of this.
We can, and that's just some of the history of that role within our city. So, so I think there's always that team of experts or specialists, you know, on speed dial when we need it. So. But no, very good points as well. Did you have something? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to actually say that, yes, Councilor Stearns brings up a very good point. And I don't know if conflict of interest is necessarily the correct term, but I do see some kind of conflict within that person. I mean, you're right. Attorneys might seem like robots sometimes, but they truly are humans. And if you're, you know, they are an employee of the council, but they work day to day with this team and relationships are built. And then I think objectivity can get lost. So I think having a team that is outside and doesn't know, you know, Joe from George, that, you know, don't care. I think that is, they can just objectively look at the matter at hand and not have those relationships play in. So I think that Councilor Stearns makes a very good point there. And then my other questions were actually for Eileen. Are those cover our took us questions not being asked? Are people not picking up the phone or sending Barry Elsner a quick email to ask those questions? Are we in jeopardy?
I think we're being well covered. You know, I have relax that requirement to, come to me first before you go to the attorney. So more and more directors are dealing with the city attorney on matters. Yes, the cost has increased as that has occurred. And, but again, it's kind of the ups and downs of, some months require a higher degree of legal interpretation of an issue or, guidance on an issue, and sometimes it's low. So, like I said, I think it's working very well, but I don't have a good sense if the department directors are kind of holding back still, because I've allowed them to contact the city attorney when needed.
You have allowed them now?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And they are doing that, because I'm hearing about, something that I didn't even know that they were working with the city attorney on.
Perfect. That's as it should be, because that would be like having somebody just down the hall in the office that couldn't get a hold of that person. The other piece of that is, and I think we should just watch that some more, see if that trajectory keeps going up. I mean, right now, we're not in any danger. We're very much under budget for attorney's fees. But it was mentioned that outside counsel was brought in to help Joe on certain things, or any other, John Kelly, anybody else, we brought in outside counsel. We don't see those numbers added in. So I'd like to know how much else we're paying besides the $230,000 for the attorney. What are we doing, what are we spending to supplement his knowledge or her knowledge? I think we're not ready to make a decision on this tonight. We have more data we need.
I do want to, I guess, piggyback on Councilor Patton's comments about, keeping the budgeted line item at that amount for next year. I think that is something that we should consider, keeping it at that level, so at least it's a space holder if something were to change, or we would need that versus it is, once we let it go, it's harder to claw back and put back in, so.
Just leave it as a placeholder, you mean?
Well, yeah,
just in case we
leaving
need
the
it?
249,
Okay.
in there. Councilor Patton and then Councilor Davis.
Yeah, I think we need to continue to watch this go. It's going to take a lot more convincing to sway me from my current opinion of all of this. And I can be quite stubborn, like other people on this council. But I think I would like to see the the tracking of the expenses, like in a bar graph over the last however many 8 months. And then, probably every quarter, we check in on this to see how that continues to track. And then go from there.
Councilor Davis?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I'm very happy with with Elsner and the attorney service we've been getting. They have the specialist in every area that we need. And with a tight budget, I'm still being pretty conservative with our budget. So if we can save that money, I'm not in favor of keeping that in the budget either. We have to see the budget and what the impacts are going to be to this year's budget. So I'm good with the services we have.
Okay. Councilor Sassy.
I agree. I mean, if we can save money anytime we want, we could beat this thing to death. But as a counselor, I want to know, as long as Eileen's happy, I want to know if the directors are happy, and I want to know if city staff is happy. If they're happy the way things are going, then let's let it lie and keep going forward. But it's about what you need, city staff needs, and directors need, bottom line.
I would say let's keep monitoring the situation. The next time you'll really see it is during budget review, because I've got to make a decision about whether we're going to put the expense in materials and services, or whether we're going to put the expense in personnel services, and we can change that around with a supplemental budget or a budget transfer. So that's not a problem, but I'm just trying to figure out where to put the funding for the city's legal services for FY 25, 24, 25.
So, quick question, would you like from us as a council tonight, some sort of direction on whether we, like, as some of us said, reduce it, keep it the same? Would you like that direction from us tonight so that you have that before building the budget out? Or are you good to do whatever?
I think I'm good for now. You know, the reason this came up tonight was because Counselor Patton, you wanted to see what we had spent to date. And so this was an appropriate, conversation to have with coupling with the case of municipal court. So, but I think I have, I've gotten feedback from you about what else you want to see, so we will certainly show you month to month what it costs. But other than that, I would say let's just keep an eye on it, and I will make that decision about where we show the budget, and you will see it at budget time.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, I will end our work session so that we can take a quick break before moving into our city council meeting here 3 minutes ago. So let's reconvene.
We gotta go get
here
our time
at-
machine.
Let's reconvene here at 7:05.
Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Recording
Canby.
stopped.
Good evening, Canby. Welcome to the April 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting. If you please stand for the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this great community. I thank you so much for the amazing weather that we have had, the taste of spring. We do so appreciate it. We ask you to bless this community in the upcoming weeks and months as we get ready to really shine as a city and community with all the events and all the things that go on around our town. Please keep our city safe and sound and protect those that do that for us. I ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Well, good evening. Sorry about the late start. We had a work session this evening talking about the municipal court. As you know, Measure 110 had some revisions at the state legislature under House Bill 4002, which the governor did sign, which is making certain drug pieces misdemeanors. And so we just had to have a conversation about what is that going to look like for city courts and our relationship with the county and what gets sent there. So we were having that conversation. And then also, as you know, we currently outsource or contract our city attorney services. That's Mr. Doofman on the screen there, as you see him. And so we're just having a conversation about our expenses so far with that contract as compared to if we had a city attorney full-time on our staff. So thank you for letting us finish that conversation. Next on our agenda is new employee introductions, and my understanding it's Jerry has an introduction to make.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I just want to thanks for letting us go first here, and I'll try to be fast so we can get on with the meeting. But as you know, we had our wastewater treatment plant supervisor retire a while ago, and we've been working on the recruitment process to fill the position. Wastewater treatment plant supervisors are in demand, so it took us a while to find someone. And we took a play out of George's book, and we stole Monica Stone from Woodburn. And so yeah, she started on the 25th and is down getting everything rolling down there and running smooth again, and we're super excited to have her. So she's here now if you guys have any questions. Or aren't you always going to put her on the spot, Mayor?
Oh, I figured there's going to be lots of time for that.
Okay.
I was more about making you nervous, Jerry, than anything.
I know. The other thing is too, is Monica's loves coming to city council meetings. So you're going to get to know, you're going to get to know our wastewater treatment plant supervisor.
We're
So
supposed to tell them
Yeah.
so
If she didn't, she does now, right?
she
Jerry?
does now, yeah.
All right. Well, Monica, thank you. And let's see. Well, really, Canby is a better city than Woodburn.
Yep.
We're way more fun and entertaining as a council, I think. You all laugh, but you should watch yourselves on tape. But yeah, tell us a little bit about you and why Canby.
Yes, well, I'm so happy to be here. Been here just over a week. Great group of people I've been able to work with. So welcoming. I live in Oregon City, really on the outskirts, very close to Canby, and have spent a lot of time here recreating, friends that live here and family. Love this community. It's really an extended part of me and what I enjoy doing. So I am so excited to be here to help serve the community, of which I love. And just, like I said, so welcoming. People have been really great to just extend a hand and make me feel like I've been here a long, long time. So far, it's been really a great transition. I just look forward to continuing to do the work that I've been able to do for the last 30-plus years. I've worked in the local community, City of Portland, City of Gresham areas, even Wilsonville, and am just really looking for a long-term place to kind of call home, and this is really where I want to be long-term. So I plan to be here for many years yet to come, and like I said, great team out there, and look forward to working through the future with the team and building it. And we've got some hires, vacancies there to fill, so looking forward, really got to jump on that already. So thank you very much for.
Great. Well, welcome to the team, Monica. It's great to meet you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
A shorter commute to
Yes.
here than
Yes.
Oh my
Woodburn too.
goodness, I am loving that. Yes.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yep, thank you.
Don't have the other one, I guess.
Is there, Eileen, do we have any others this evening? No. Okay, perfect. Next is the proclamation for Library Week. So National Library Week is here coming up, and so whereas libraries provide the opportunity for everyone to pursue their passions and engage in lifelong learning, allowing them to live their best life. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions for all members of the community, and whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the population they serve and ensure equity of access for all. Whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, continuing expanding their collections, services, and partnerships. Whereas libraries play a critical role in the economic vitality of communities by providing internet and technology access, literacy skills, and support of job seekers, small businesses, and entrepreneurs. Whereas libraries are accessible and include places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. And whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Canby, do proclaim April 7th through the 13th, 2024, as National Library Week. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit our library to explore the wealth of resources available. Dated this third day of April 2024. And I think I see some library. Kill myself on that trail.
Please don't.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did you want to take a moment and say anything or about activities maybe coming up that week?
I wasn't prepared. I'm here on behalf of our library director.
Perfect.
Tonight, but,
That'll work.
thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That thing sounds so scary.
I know. There's got to be a weight limit on there. Next up is opportunity for citizen input and community announcements. This is an opportunity for audience members to address the city council on items not on the agenda. If you are attending in person, please complete a yellow card. They're back there on the podium. Fill that out and please bring it over to our city recorder, and she will make sure that I get it. And which I don't have any currently. And then if you are interested in speaking to the council virtually, please contact the city recorder by 4:30 on the day of our city council meetings with your name, the topic that you'd like to speak on, and your contact information, so that also can go to our city recorder. And Maya, do we have anyone that has? No, we have not. All right. Well, with no citizen input, we will move on to item 5 this evening is the Clackamas Community College bond presentation. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you both?
We are fantastic.
Thank you for giving us time to present make our presentation. I'm Irene Konev, and I am a resident of Canby for 18 years. And I also serve on the Clackamas Community College Board representing Canby, parts of Wilsonville, and this beautiful outlying area in Clackamas County.
Thanks. And I'm Jeff Schaefer. I'm the Vice President of Finance and Operations and CFO for Clackamas Community College, and leading us on this bond campaign for the November election of 2024. And this is really just a feedback presentation that we're doing at this point. We haven't put it on the ballot yet, but we are seeking feedback from our communities around the district. So I think with that, we will go ahead and get started. I'll have Irene kick us off on our short presentation we have for you all.
Great. Are you able to hear me? I'm here to share the CCC plans for student success. The college is considering placing this bond in November on the ballot. This will be planning the second phase of our college facilities master plan, and would be a renewal of the existing bond, which was passed in 2014. Right now, we're sharing our projects around the community, both internally and externally, and getting feedback to see if this project would serve your needs. So who are we? We were founded in 1966. Our service area is Clackamas County. Our campuses include Oregon City, Wilsonville, Milwaukee, and we have 928 employees. Our student population is 18,842. The average student age is 32. Some of our programs are also done remotely, and we have students that are taking our classes from other states, including as far as New York. Our programs, we have 108 career and technical programs. We have two-year transfer degrees. We have GED, English as a second language, adult, high school. We have community education around the community. We have business training as well. A little background about CCC. We have been serving Clackamas Community College for nearly 60 years and have campuses in those 3 locations with more than 100 technical career programs and a variety of other educational opportunities. We serve close to 19,000 students, as I said before, and employ 900 staff. We also bring a huge impact to our community because the college is able to, there's a whole other presentation about that, but we have a huge impact economically on our community as well. Student population, 19,857 total. We have 4,839.7 FTE, full-time employees, and students. And the types of students, we have 14% that are academic transfers, 17% career and technical students, and 8% in general studies, 34% in community education, 4% developmental education, and then 23 just general. The economic impact that I was sharing, Clackamas Community College adds $314.7 million in income to Clackamas County in the economy, a value of 1.2 of the county's gross GRP, sorry. Socioeconomic diversity, 15.3% are known as first-generation students. Those are students that don't have a parent or another person in their family that has attained a degree. 47.4 received Pell Grants and financial aid. 2,160 students received grants or scholarship aid. And in Pell Grants, 1,408 students received Pell Grants. So we have a huge economic disadvantaged students attending. Like our community, our student population is diverse. Community college are open door institutions, and we serve some of the most underrepresented and underserved populations in our district. We help them get access to higher education, gain job skills, and achieve their goals, whether it is if they're transferring to a 4-year degree, university, or launching a new career or starting their own businesses. Our community continues to grow and change, and as the education and training continues to evolve, the college must adapt and grow to meet the needs of the community and the area industries.
And one thing I'll say on this slide that is telling is that our average age is 32 years old. And you'll see that like the average age for full-time credit-seeking students is 24. Those tend to be our traditional high school 2-year transfer students. But the fact that our average age is 32 just shows the diversity we have in our school district. And the fact that only 15.1% are full-time, which you can kind of see when you look at the numbers, 20,000 students, but less than 5,000 are full-time equivalent. That's that 15% that are full-time. So we really are serving a very wide range of our community that are just trying to get back and take classes and get back into the job market. So that's a big piece of what we do out there that's compared to a 4-year university.
And actually, this year, when this past year, 2023, when we were handing out our diplomas, the youngest graduate was, I think, 16, and she was also the president of the Students' Union. And I think our oldest was 80 or 70 or 80. I can't remember the number. It was like a wide range. What is a bond election? Colleges borrow funding to pay for construction, expansion, and renovation of grounds and buildings. Voters must approve these funds through a bond election on the ballot. Clackamas Community College is looking to put the bond measure on the November 2024 ballot. As such, Clackamas Community College is considering asking for additional funding from the community to support projects that will help us plant seeds for student success. For those who are not familiar with bonds, insured bonds are for buildings. Community college can borrow funding to pay for the construction, expansion, and renovation of grounds and buildings. Voters must approve these funds through a bond election on the ballot, which is then funded through taxpayer property taxes. The funds can only be used for projects approved by voters. As I mentioned, Clackamas Community College is looking to put a bond measure on the November 2024 ballot. This bond renewal is necessary investment in our community's future that will prepare our students for the success and modern learning spaces and innovative in-demand programs to improve community access to our college, enhance and partner community connections, and preserve and maintain our assets by updating, maintaining, and repairing aging facilities. And I invite you all to come and check out our facilities.
Thanks. And so we've had a long history of community support, actually, at the college. We passed the original bonds that these are renewing in 2000. Those were the original bonds that built some of our main infrastructure out there at Oregon City campus. And then in 2014, we went out for what was really a 2-phased renewal. And we focused in 2014 on building a lot of our expansion. So what did we see that was happening in the market? We needed a second building at Harmony campus. We needed a manufacturing building. We needed a good one-stop welcome center at our Oregon City campus. So we went out in 2014 for really a phase 1 approach. And that was the beginning of what is the first renewal of this 2000 bond that we have. If you hit the next slide, I'll show you what that 2014 bond accomplished here. It was a $90 million bond. And what was really impressive was that we leveraged over 50% of that bond, and we're able to do $136 million of projects. Now, a large portion of that is the state offers $8 million match grants for any large-scale capital projects, and we built 4 large buildings, and we were able to sequence those and get 4 different $8 million state matches. And that was 32 million of that leveraged funds, but we also got good premiums with our AAA credit rating. We had a lot of good grants. We were getting interest. So we ended up building quite a bit with that 2014 bond, and we're able to really get some of our biggest assets that we currently have as new infrastructure out there in phase 1. And now we're coming out with phase 2, and that's next slide. And so what we knew with phase 2 would be the way we stair-step this would be we would come back out in 2024 and do more of fixing what we had, fixing the old infrastructure that was built in 1969, 70 on Oregon City campus, and looking at the old athletics master plan that we had. So we went out a couple years ago and we said, what do we really need to go out and look at doing for this 2024 bond? So we did a concept master plan, we did an athletics facility master plan, and we did a mechanical, electrical, and plumbing master plan, which is more like major maintenance. So your old infrastructure, what's your HVAC and your piping and all that stuff really need in the next 10 years. And that ended up coming out to $335 million. And we knew we didn't have $335 million for the second stair step of this bond. So then we developed a bond development work group. So we had our staff, we had students, we had board members, all coming together to look at all these different projects that made up 335 and say, what would be our priority in 2024 election of those different things that we had in those plans that we could then propose for the 2024 election. So we did some internal survey. We also did external polling to see what our community liked. And that's really where we came together with what we're coming out to you now in these bond proposals. So you'll see the group came up with 3 themes out of this, and really the first one was about how do we prepare our students for success in modern learning spaces. One of the things that came out is traditional classrooms that we have where you've got 30 desks staring at a whiteboard with a podium is not really the modern learning environment that we see today. We're seeing a lot more people coming and doing remote learning, Tuesday, Thursday hybrid classes where your accounting class may be a classroom on a Tuesday, but then having an actual remote class happening on a Thursday. So we're seeing a much different environment happening at the community college level. And we're thinking, how do we give them Zoom rooms or spots where students can have like spaces to be able to take an online class over here and then come to a classroom over here. So a lot of this is about how we look at modern learning spaces over the next 10 to 20 years for community colleges. The second theme that came out was about our partners and community connections. This is really one of our keys that we're seeing is we have a lot of, we got hundreds of acres, a beautiful campus, 3 campuses. And one of our commitments has been, community is our middle name. So we are Clackamas Community College. How do we bring our assets to the community? So we're working on those community connections that we have with the community college. So that was our second theme. And then our third theme was really about preserving and maintaining what we had. That was really one of the key themes that came out from the phase 2 was how do we take care of those old 60s assets and maintain them so they're not spending a lot of general fund money on maintaining some of those major maintenance funds. So that was really what we focused on. And then we said, well, we really only have about $110 or $120 million that we could renew. So what could we build with that, with these 3 themes? So that's really the key piece where we ended up with projects on the next couple slides here for these 3 themes. So what you'll see is that first theme of preparing our students for success in modern learning spaces. One of the really exciting projects that's come out of this is to construct a center of excellence for horticulture, farming, and welding in wildland fire on our east campus. It's, for those who've been out there, it's off the Beaver Creek Road. Right now, Beaver Creek Road entrance is like a backside of the campus. It looks at the backsides of greenhouses and other pieces of our horticulture building. And so what we're looking at there is to actually make a nice one-stop center of excellence. We've also have the OSU has been meeting with us about wanting their extension services to be located in the county at that same building. So they've offered up to $10 million of funding to maybe have their own floor on that building. So this is a good opportunity for us to partner with OSU Extension and provide this center of excellence out there on our campus. Another piece we talked about earlier was the modernizing learning spaces. So this is really just remodeling some of our older buildings to have learning spaces that really meet the future needs of learning today. So those are some of the key pieces that we had out of theme 1. Theme 2, out of the partnership and community connections, one piece that you'll see at the bottom right is that's called the Challenger Center. It's a nonprofit that came out of the Challenger disaster, for those who recall from back in, I think it was the 80s, that they've provide it's almost like an OMSI, like hands-on simulation, tends to be for K-12 and like middle schools to come in and learn about STEM and really get a hands-on simulation of, they'll actually have people in the capsule in one room, the people actually doing the launch in another room. And so they do these different simulations with this nonprofit, and it's an opportunity to bring people to our campus from all the different K-12 districts around our county and bring them in here and actually see like a STEM opportunity and what the science programs look like and kind of get them introduced to that. So that's an exciting opportunity. There's only 2 of them on west of the Rockies, so we're hoping that we can maybe be the third. They're really eyeballing us on the I-5 corridor as an opportunity for that. We're also looking at potential partnership building on the Wilsonville campus that we would look for maybe apprenticeships or workforce or some type of expansion that's happening. It's a very busy campus, but right now it's very busy in the evenings with apprenticeships, and it gets full and then kind of gets capped out. So we're looking for some potential expansion out there. We're also looking to upgrade our athletics field and provide potentially a upgraded track and field track with a synthetic soccer that we could program out with lighting and a grandstand, so we could actually bring more events. Right now, if a track and field event in the county wants to go anywhere, they usually go to Mount Hood Community College because it's like where you can actually have grandstands and a big Olympic-size track and field event. So we're looking to do something that would be more like that to help serve our community, and along with completing our Douglas Loop walking trail. Ever since COVID, we've become almost like a park for a lot of the local people that come and just working, go to a 200-acre green campus and just to have a nice walking trail and a place to come where you're away from the hubbub of the city. So that's another thing that we're looking at for this particular project. And our last theme on the major maintenance pieces of taking care of what we have is preserving and maintaining our assets. I think it's coming up here. So this is really about, we have an old chiller and boiler that takes 4 buildings and heats them all at once or cools them all at once. So it's the old 70s technology, and we're looking to get more of like individual HVAC units that are looking for where are we actually doing classes that week and heating and cooling specifically. So these are really going to increase a lot of our energy efficiency and take away some of the old technology and really get us to modernize today. Along with some of the, we have old technology in our computer labs, our safety security, our old cameras. So we're trying to get things more modern for safety, security, and technology and pedestrian safety around the campus there. So those are really some of the things that we're looking at for that big bucket of projects. So, and then I think the last pieces here are just to remind folks, so we're planning on leveraging more funding for this. So even though it's only $120 million bond, OSU Extension has mentioned chipping in. We're already filing right now with the state on an $8 million grant for that Center of Excellence. Should it get funded, they would chip in $8 million. And there's always federal grants coming down the pipeline for a lot of these energy efficiency and other programs. So we're looking at leveraging a lot of funding to get more bang for our buck for this potential bond. So, and really the last piece here is, one nice thing about being a community college is we are pretty wide across the entire district here. We take up most of the county, and so really for 25 cents for each 1,000 assessed value is what it would cost to renew this. So if you had a $300,000 home, that's like $75 a year. So it's like much less expensive than some of the other bonds I've helped with in K-12 or parks districts that I worked for where there's a smaller footprint. That's one nice thing is you can really get a good bang for your buck. On this, you're getting a lot of capital project because we're really doing it and serving the whole county with these projects. So it's just another piece that's reminding folks of what we provide and what we can give here. So,
well, I just wanted to add that as a homeowner in Canby, the last thing I want to do is my taxes go up when it's time to pay the property tax. But I can tell you that this has a lot of value that we are adding to our community and to the economy and to the students that we serve.
yeah. So, and I think that is all. I think the big piece here is, as I mentioned, we're not really looking, at this point, we aren't on the ballot. We're really looking for feedback. So we created that website that's on your materials, the cccbond.org, cccbond.org. And really, we're just looking for feedback and seeing what the community's input for us is as we start developing this bond list and actually putting something forward to our board for that. So would love to take any questions you have on this or.
Counselor Stearns.
First, I would like to say thank you for the presentation. The community college is of really big value to the community and even to our family. My oldest son was not doing very well in high school, so we took him out of high school and he went to Clackamas Community College and got basically the equivalent of a junior in classes, because it's much more flexible. So I just thank you on that. But one question I just want to ask is there any plans to do anything in Canby?
I think the biggest plans, maybe not for this bond campaign, one thing we are working on kind of on the side is where can we provide mobile classrooms in some of our rural communities? Because I think that's one of the needs that the President Cook and I have heard is Molalla, Estacada, Canby. There's a lot of these areas where when students just need to take a class and they just don't have that opportunity to drive to campus, where are we able to provide mobile classrooms? And there's some of those opportunities that are out there across the United States where there's mobile classrooms that'll come out to a campus for one day a week. And
one of the, and I guess kind of where I see a need anyway, I work a lot with the Hispanic community, both professionally and in other ways. And there's a big need for education, at least a lot of the people that are coming into our community don't have a lot of school. I mean, when I said don't have a law school, some have no school. At work, sometimes I have to help sign their name for them, and they don't even speak Spanish all that well, usually indigenous. And it would be a good idea to have something local where they could learn English and learn something, skills, because I see one of the weakness I see is not everything's online, but when you don't know how to use a computer, the online doesn't really help. So I think, would be a big benefit if there was something here in the community that could help people so that they could succeed more. And if they succeed more, then eventually they pay more taxes and we all get better off that way, right? So, I mean, just from a selfish point of view, but it's also good to have everybody learn things anyway. But I see that as a big need. Although I'm really glad you have the facilities available in Wilsonville and Oregon City, I just see that as something that could be highly useful to our community.
No, and I appreciate that. I don't think you're unique in that. I think our county has a lot of that. We actually created one of the first early childhood education degrees that's fully in Spanish. And then what we do is we have that cohort works with our ESOL, which is our English as a second language group. So they're actually bringing in and helping, taking an all Spanish class and being able to put them into early childhood education courses around the district here. So we are already working on that. We have a brand new program that's a Spanish welding program. That one is done in Spanish, but then the degree program isn't all in Spanish. So what you have to do then is really have them be immersed in like an ESOL program. So they're learning English so they can succeed as they find.
Yeah, I think, the instruction in Spanish is good, but having them learn English and how things worked here, because they work differently in Mexico. You go to Mexico, things work differently, and you have, for example, there in Mexico, often the case is law enforcement and government is something that you want to avoid to the point where you would actually pay them to go away. And that doesn't quite work as well in our society. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you come into scenarios. So I think a lot of education on, one, learning English, but two, learning how just things work here, which is different than how things work often where they're at. And I've had some experience with some indigenous communities there in Mexico, just because family relations and stuff, and just working here at work. But I'm just saying, I think that's a big need, and and I would like to see something here around in Canby. And I the Canby School District, they really kind of cut you off at 18, I mean, maybe 19, but, but for adults to learn, I think there's just a big need to be with that. So I guess I can.
Thanks.
Counselor Sassy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm probably dating my age, but for years, we got flyers in the mail that you had classes at the high school. Is that still going on or not so much anymore?
We I want to say it was like right around COVID time that we cut our flyers and started sending more of either postcards with QR codes or emails or things that were more electronic to come here to see our PDF. So you're probably right. If you're looking for that big catalog, I know my wife told me, why don't I get my catalog? I just like to thumb through it. And I said, it's a cost savings thing. It was $250,000 a year to just print them out to everybody who is a member of our district. And when you're as large as we are, that becomes pretty cost prohibitive. So we've looked at, like, is there opting in pieces to that where we're not spending quite as much and we're really getting the folks who want it and less of spreading it out.
Maybe just a flyer or something to remind, because I am not a huge fan of QR codes. I mean, it seems like every time we use, they have now at the baseball games. Well, if you don't have a certain phone, they don't work. Well, here we go. So
Actually, we do get a newsletter, and the back page usually has a list of different classes available in the community that comes to our
Is there
mail.
still community classes in Canby?
It's community education.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
community
we have-
ed classes, yeah.
Okay, so there are,
Some.
yeah, I didn't think there was any at all.
Yeah.
Counselor Davis and Counselor Patton.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation, great presentation. Are you going to solicit input from the Canby School District or the high schools as well?
I think that's next week.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I know that they're working very hard on career development at the junior and senior level. And so input from them as far as what career tracks there are and how could you help develop those career tracks. And more importantly, trying to get more associate's degree graduates out of high school. I know that's they've had a lot of success in Washington State with that as well. And sitting down with students during their career interviews and stuff, a number of them are taking community college classes, but very few with graduating with an associate's degree out of high school. And we all know that seniors sometimes will only be taking one or two classes in their senior year, to where they could be, spending their time working towards their associate's degree. So I think input at the high school level is very
We actually
important.
have a really robust connection with between the college and the high school here. And our counselors are out in the schools talking about that and helping the students know about the program and helping them enroll. It's probably not where you want to see it, but there's a pretty large effort to get that information.
Great. Counselor Patton.
So you had me at horticulture. I'm happy to pay my 75 cents if it means Frank gets a new greenhouse out there. As a person who works in that industry, it is getting harder and harder to find young people who are interested in getting involved in it. The average age, similar to other industries, is going up because folks aren't interested in coming into it, and getting those technologies in front of them and getting them acclimated to them is huge, at least in my industry. And I think what you did with your previous bond, as far as updating like the auto shop and some of those things, I wasn't able to get out to your open house when you did it, but which unfortunately I was double booked. But I think you did a fantastic job out there. So I will use this opportunity, though, to put a little water and fertilizer on a seed that I planted the other day. And you were talking about doing like mobile classes. It just so happens that a few weeks ago, we had a conversation about a potential event facility here in Canby. And I had mentioned something about having meeting rooms and community rooms in that. I think that would be an excellent place to have mobile classrooms as part of the rental agreement out there. So just something to think about.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other, yes, Counselor Davis.
Yeah, I'm sorry to come back to me. Thanks,
that's
Mayor.
okay.
The other part to think about moving forward too is I know your wildland program is taking off and doing very well, and you have EMT classes, but we have a lot of interest in the community towards a fire science degree, both paramedic as well as fire science. And right now they have to go to Chemeketa, and we hate to send all the kids all down to Chemeketa or to PCC to receive their associate's degree. So anything you can maybe start thinking about how you could forecast in an associate's degree in fire science.
Yeah. I can make a note of that.
Or paramedic too, because we have a huge interest in Canby for that.
Yeah. Great. Good info.
Well, great. Thank you both very much for the update, and hopefully that was good information from us, but thank you for your presentation. Let us know kind of what's being queued up for the future at Clackamas Community College. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Next on the agenda is the Willamette Falls and Landings Heritage Area Coalition presentation. Hello.
Hello. Okay, can you all hear me? Great. Well, hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'll pause for a second as we get this presentation up. I presented to you guys just about a year ago, I think, and so I'll be fairly brief tonight, won't do the whole backstory of who we are, but just I'm here to give you guys an update on our work, and thank you for your engagement over the past year. So I have a clicker. Yeah, I'll give you a brief update on our City Hall project, talk a little bit about our progress towards becoming a National Heritage Area. Really just want to say thank you again for your support and remind you all how you or other Canby community members can get involved. We are always seeking more engagement. So just as a reminder, our mission and vision as an organization, we are leading efforts to enhance, assist, and promote the heritage area, which you'll see a map on the next page is fairly large. And we hope that this region becomes a space where residents and visitors experience the places, stories, and abundance of culture and history that are within the region. So here's our map. As you can see, we follow the river, the Willamette River, that is, for 56 river miles, starting in Lake Oswego and then all the way upriver to Wheatland at the Willamette Mission State Park. And then we do stretch out east to Eagle Creek, so we get that end of the Oregon Trail story because that's very integral to the history and development of all of Oregon, frankly. So that does include Canby. We've been making, I think, a fairly strong effort over the last year, to expand some of our upriver representation, starting really with Canby and slowly moving up the river. So we're looking forward to having more members from the Butteville, Donald, Newburgh area in the future, because we have been slightly fall-centric in the past, but so much of our history resides in that French Prairie, Newburgh, Upper Willamette Valley area. So we're excited to see more upriver partners come on. But I'll touch now on our current work. Some of our big projects over the last year, one of them has been our historic City Hall project. So we've partnered with the city of West Lynn to renovate really their historic City Hall building. It sits right on the West Lynn side of the Arch Bridge, and it's been there since 1936. It was a WPA project during the Depression, and it has always been a dual-use building. It opened as a grocery store and as their City Hall, but it's been vacant since, I think, 2014. So last April, so really just a year ago, the West Lynn City Council finally approved this project in partnership with our organization, and demolition actually began this last January. So the entire building is being gutted and it's being prepared to be a community use space. We are very excited about that. The city of West Lynn is going to continue owning the building, and then the coalition is going to be its primary manager and occupant. So the second story of the building will be all community use space and office space. We'll have offices for our organization as well as other community nonprofits, and then large community meeting space that organizations or individuals could rent out. And then the downstairs portion, I think, is what's really exciting and what's going to be a huge benefit, not just to Westland, but truly to the whole heritage area. That's all going to be interpretive space and be a very visitor-facing facility that will serve as the starting point for exploration of the entire heritage area. So we'll have some permanent exhibits that give an overview of the whole region, as well as lots of space for rotating exhibits. So we can have organizations or individuals from communities like Canby come and do displays, interpretive panels, art shows, kind of anything. It's really open to discussion at this point, but we want to see the community use the space and make it their own. So we're hoping to occupy the building by 2025. We're pushing for that to be a little bit sooner, but with a construction project on a building of this age that's been through many other renovations, there's always going to be setbacks, and that's going to be a lengthy process. So I think 2025 is a realistic occupancy date. And in the meantime, the coalition is working to help manage some of that construction, and then we're also fundraising pretty earnestly. I'm writing a lot of grants, and we're doing a lot of community fundraising. We have some big goals, and it's the coalition's responsibility to furnish the inside of the building. So the city is paying for all of the physical renovations, and then the coalition comes in and will turn the space into an interpretive center, provide desks and office equipment, and really make it a welcoming and usable space. So we're excited about that. This has been a long time coming, and the ball is finally rolling, and it is actually moving ahead. So we're very excited about that progress. And then we've also made some great progress in our efforts to become a national heritage area. Our National Heritage Area goal is really what started our organization. It is why we exist. National Heritage Areas are a very unique and I think wonderful program from the National Park Service. They're places, as you can see up there, where natural, cultural, and historic resources combine to form a cohesive and nationally significant landscape. So we've kind of selected the river as that defining feature that does tell a cohesive story of this portion of Oregon that contributes to the nation's history. They are great for local economies. They leverage federal funds to create jobs and sustain local communities through revitalization and heritage tourism. I think our City Hall project is a great example of that revitalization. So once we become a national heritage area, I think we'll have even more capacity to do similar projects throughout the region, but that's a great first step and a really tangible way that you can see this program already working, even though we don't have that designation technically. So we have been working to become a national heritage area for at least 10 years, if not a little bit more at this point. But this last year, I think we've made some really significant progress. We've had a draft piece of legislation floating around for a while, and that's undergone some significant revisions. Backing up, there are really two major milestones that need to happen to become a national heritage area. You have to complete a feasibility study that is then approved by the National Park Service, and that was approved in 2018. And we've been working on our legislation since then. We had a previous draft that went out to the community and got all sorts of comments back, and we've spent the last year really redrafting, and I think we have a very strong draft that we're putting the finishing touches on over the coming week, and we should be ready to share that out with our community partners and then with our federal delegation. We have been in touch with our representatives and senators for the districts within the heritage area, and we're pretty confident that we will see this move forward in 2025 or 2026, just based on the congressional landscape right now. It'll likely be part of an omnibus bill, and it seems that that will likely happen in either of those 2 years. If an opportunity arose sooner, I think we'd be ready to go, but that's just what our current timeline looks like. One of the big sticking points over the past few years with our legislation has been over tribal language and defining people groups and heritage and kind of telling history within the legislation. So we took an approach to make our legislation fairly neutral. So we don't define tribes, we don't define people groups. It's as inclusive as I think you could make it. And it focuses on establishing a national heritage area, not telling the heritage of the area. Once we become a heritage area, we want to enable all of the groups within the region to tell those histories, but our legislation doesn't need to do that. So I think with this neutral language, we have a very strong, we're very, very well positioned to move this forward and see approval within the next 2 years. So that's, again, other exciting progress that has been a long time coming. That's kind of completes our updates for our big projects and our current work. And then there's always opportunities to get involved. So we have plenty of opportunities for community members, yourselves included, to share heritage with our organization and then have that shared out with the larger communities. We're also always looking for volunteers. We have many active committees that can always use more members. We'd really love support with our City Hall project, especially on the fundraising front. And then whenever I'm in front of cities, I do want to ask that cities consider becoming a paid partner. We have 7 paid government partners currently, paying annually anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000. That makes up a very good chunk of our operating budget and enables us to do a lot of these larger scale projects. And our funding needs are going to increase as we start to occupy a building and manage that. So we'll have larger needs in the coming years and want to make sure we're increasing our funding base. And a lot of that will come from community fundraising, but our government partners are very important in that. So I'd like to invite the City of Canby to really open that discussion and see if there's an opportunity for any contribution. It doesn't have to be at that $5,000 level. It can be more, it can be less than that. But we just want you to know that that's on the table, and anything that can be contributed would be greatly appreciated. So happy to answer any questions. I think that kind of wraps up all of our updates, but thank you again for your support. Councillor Padden has been a board member for the last year, almost the last year. He's been a great addition. We're super excited to have Canby's support and Canby's input, and we're glad to continue working with you guys.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
Pretty comprehensive. Thank you.
Councilor Padden.
I just want to say it's been a pleasure to be a member of this particular group. It is fascinating to see what they are doing. And I'm obviously, because I'm part of the group, I would be hoping that Canby would be more supportive of it. So be prepared for me to be railing on that at some point in the near future. But no, I think I was able to help out with the City Hall project and packing up furniture and cooking hot dogs at it. And now, because I have a horrible disease of getting involved in more things, I have taken over the role as the Planning and Projects Committee Chair for the group. So it's definitely worth the time.
It is.
I can't. It's just too much. It keeps me out of the bars.
I know, I had the same problem. That's why my calendar looks like this.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the update, and
Yeah.
I'm sure Councilor Padden will keep us well informed and push this along on our end as well. So great.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the March 20th, 2024 City Council work session and regular meeting, the Distillery LCC application for Archetype located at 181 North Grant Street, and the appointment of member David Tate to the Budget Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2026.
Second?
Thank you, Councilor Padden. Motion has been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Padden to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the March 20th, 2024 City Council work session and regular meeting, approval of the Distillery OLCC application for Archetype located at 181 North Grant Street, and then appointment of member David Tate to the Budget Committee with a term ending June 30th of 2026. Any further discussion or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Next on the agenda for this evening is ordinances and resolutions. Conversation regarding ordinance number 1619, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Robert Half of Los Angeles, California to provide temporary IT staffing and not to exceed $315,000 and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Mayor, I don't have any update on this. As you recall, this is the ordinance that authorizes us to cover our expenses, and that's what this is. So,
Okay.
yeah. If you have any questions, Todd is here, but this is the second reading, so.
There's nothing new, you said. So, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 1619, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Robert Half of Los Angeles, California to provide temporary IT staffing not to exceed $315,000 and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Motion made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Padden to approve ordinance number 1619, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Robert Half of Los Angeles, California, to provide temporary IT staffing and not to exceed $315,000, declaring it an emergency. Roll call vote.
Counselor Patton?
Aye.
Counselor Davis?
Aye.
Counselor Stearns?
Aye.
Counselor Sassy?
Aye.
And Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Todd. Next up is old business, city attorney recruitment, but we had that conversation here this morning,
Yes.
this evening at our work session, so we'll move on from there. Item 10 is mayor's business. Not much to report right now. Clackamas County Coordinating Committee meets tomorrow evening, so I'll report on that at our next meeting. Proud to announce that Saturday Market is back and in full swing downtown, so come check that out on Saturday mornings until I think 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then just to give the council a heads up that there will be a memo from me in your inboxes by the end of the week, just kind of giving an update and leading to some conversation or finished conversation regarding the partnership with the Oregon Railroad about the fence between the logging trail and the railroad, and if we want to be involved in that or not. So the memo just contains some correspondence that Eileen and I have had with them and some additional questions that just I got clarification on. So I will share that and we can discuss at the next meeting because there are financial implications to it. And if it's something that we do want to partner with them on, that does have budget implications. And so we should make sure that we have clear direction for staff on that. So that'll be coming up on that. And that is all that I have this evening. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Counselor Patton, you get to go first this evening.
Okay. So, as far as my activities since last time, city-related mostly, I attended the Planning Commission meeting the other night and was glad I did because they were asking for folks to joined the street maintenance task force, and there was some misunderstanding about all that stuff, so I was able to fill them in on some of the history of it, and so they are sending 2 representatives to the task force. I know Jerry has been working on his list, I've been working on my list of folks, and so that is coming together, so hopefully we'll have an update for you folks soon on all that.
Is that why I saw you sitting here at the table addressing the Planning Commission?
Yes, that was part of it. And then I attended the chamber birthday celebration. Unfortunately, like usual, I showed up towards the end, but I did have a chance to wish them a happy birthday, and they had some very interesting treats there from Bee's Bakery, so that was very good, which then prompted me to go to Bee's Bakery and buy some more of those treats, which I really didn't need, but whatever. So helping support the downtown businesses. And then I did attend the chamber luncheon yesterday, which had some very good information and updates there. I kind of attended the Vietnam Memorial celebration. I did not realize that it would be done so quickly, so by the time I fought traffic to get over there, it was over. But I did go into the Burgerville and say hello and pay my respects, and now I know that the ceremony is extremely short, and so if I want to participate next time, I've got to be there a little early. As far as the Willamette Falls Landing and Heritage Area Coalition, I want to thanks again Britta for coming in and giving us that presentation. And as I mentioned, I've stepped up in a more active role there, and I will just plant the seed that I do hope that the city. I think it's a very important group, and I know that we have a tight budget, but I do hope the city would be willing to maybe provide some financial support to that. As far as the City Hall project and what's going on there, it's really super cool to see what's going on. And part of the reason why there's some changes with the thing is there was some asbestos that was found that we were not aware of when they started the initial project.
1938,
So yeah, there was like the carpet upstairs, and underneath the entire carpet upstairs is all asbestos tile that they did not know about. So those are some of the things that come up and impact these sort of things. And then also, as Britta was mentioning about the legislation, I believe that there will be an ask of everybody in the upriver area to maybe sign on and help support that legislation. And so I'm hoping that the city will step up and play a role in doing that. Some other weird sort of side things I'm doing, and this is more or less just make sure this is okay with council. As you know, I have been working on the town sign for quite some time, and Jerry had reached out to me, so I've been working with Jerry through Eileen. There was a group, Leviat. There's a business up here in the industrial park that has an interest in helping with the sign. And so what we're going to be doing is actually working with a group of them to not only do some cleanup at the sign, but the Vietnam War Memorial Park really needs some work. And so we're going to be working with Jerry and the Parks Department to they're going to take out some shrubbery and clean things up, and then we're going to do some pressure washing and mulching and work to get that all all nice and shiny for summer. And then hopefully the goal is to then work with some other groups to follow things on down 99E and get the roses and some of that cleaned up, all in preparation for 4th of July this year. So those are some of the oddball things that I'm working on. I did want to thank Jerry and Public Works. I had sent Eileen and Jerry some pictures. I was out for a walk and there was a degraded sewer grate. And I didn't even realize it, but in the picture I took, the stop sign and street signs were really bad too. So the other day when I walked by, they're like already fixed. So kudos to Public Works and the city staff for getting that taken care of so quickly. And it kind of goes in line with what Clackamas Community College was here about with the bonding. They're talking about doing a bond. The fire district just recently did a bond. The school's bond is probably going to be coming up at some point in time. We're talking about a water treatment plant and such. There was talk about doing like a local bonding group. So like all of the taxing districts that are going to do bonds, getting them sorted together and figuring out what their needs are going to be when, because we're going to have the pool levy coming up again, and these sort of things, and really working to try and plan some of that out so that all the groups aren't coming to the voters at the same time, the taxpayers at the same time asking for money, and then have one fail and one succeed or all fail. So I wasn't sure if there was any effort on that still or what people's thoughts were on that. And then finally, I have had some folks reach out to me about the beer library, the old library building. And I had sent an email to staff asking some questions about that. And some of the things that people are asking about me is what the progress is. The building is now completely fenced off. It looks like a dump. I know that they are continuing to work, but I think the community is really in need of getting some sort of update as to what the realistic expectation of when that is going to come up. So as far as what the current progress is, a more distinct target for an opening date. In an article I recently read, it said early summer. Early summer is just around the corner.
Yeah.
And I don't see that place being ready to open up in early summer. And, so there's that before I go on. Is the date that they are targeting realistic? I want a realistic target date, and I think the community is owed a realistic target date of when that's going to open, rather than saying it's going to be this to try and get us to go away, and then it shifts and changes. I would also like to know how long the fence will be blocking the sidewalk off. It is now blocking off most of the sidewalk, so pedestrians cannot access the area. So now they're either crossing the street or they're walking in the street. There's no bumpers to guard pedestrians and keep a separation between them and traffic. And now the Saturday market is starting to open, and so that is all down there during the Saturday market, and it looks like a hot mess. And then I would also like to know if there's been any other changes to the plan. And this kind of goes to one of the things that bothers me the most about this project, is the city sold them that building at a discount in order to revitalize that building in that area. And I was not on the council at the time, but the council was giving a very specific plan. It was given a dream of this is what this building could be. And I was at that meeting and saw it as a citizen and a member of the planning commission. And then when the first iteration of that building came across in the planning commission, I wondered if it was maybe a little too ambitious. And then it was, and so then it changed, and then it went on, and then it's changed again, and now it's nothing like what it originally was. And I think moving forward, if the city has properties like this and sells them to a developer for these purposes, I know there were some guardrails put on the sale, because there was some concerns as to whether if they got the building, they could just sell it and make a profit on it. I think there needs to be more guardrails. There needs to be more expectations that if you're coming here and you're telling the council that you're going to do X, then you need to do X, or you need to do X minus or X plus, rather than doing X or saying X and doing Y. Yes. Because that's what happened here. I don't want to sound nasty, but I feel like there was a bit of a switcheroo put on this whole thing. And one of the things, and I had sent the snippet to the article to Eileen and such, and there was a recent article that was in, and I've heard this through the community, and I read it in this article, but essentially some of the blame for this being delayed was laid at the feet of city staff and our planning department. And I really take offense to that, because I've been on council now for almost 2 years, and I was on the planning commission, I think as just a member before I was chair, when this originally came across the planning commission's dais. And then it changed again. And then they were upset that they had to do a traffic study, because that was part of what held up the next one. And the reason they had to do a traffic study was because under the two plans they originally proposed to the city, it wasn't going to change the makeup of the building enough to warrant a traffic study. But then when they added the food carts, it changed it enough where a traffic study was needed. And so I don't think it's fair that the blame is being laid at the planning commission's feet. And I also think that they have really gotten their bang for their buck out of this city, because not only did the city sell them that building at a discount in order to make it work for them, but I can tell you that in conversations that we've had, the amount of fees that the planning department charges these developers do not actually cover our costs. And so the fact that this design has gone through the planning department 3 separate times and has gone across this dais with the planning commission 3 different times, that has taken up a lot of money. And so I want to see it done. I want to know realistically when it's going to be done. And moving forward, I'm hoping that the city has learned some lessons from this so that this sort of thing does not happen again. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts about that when it comes to your time to chat, but and I was under the impression that someone might be here to chat about that a little bit tonight. That didn't happen. But yeah, so as far as me, other than that, everything's going good. I hope everybody had a wonderful Easter. Got all the eggs and all the chocolate. And that is all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you, sir. Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too get a lot of questions about the Bear Library. In fact, just today, I drove by it and I said, it doesn't look like it's going to be done in June, because June was the last month I heard. So I would like to have an update as well. I likewise went to the chamber luncheon. It was good to hear Representative Heave. It's always good to have him come and share, and there were a lot of good updates, a lot of things that did come through the legislature that was good, believe it or not. And so we got to hear about that. And I want to thank him for coming, and he's always been very engaged with the city and our events. Also went to the Vietnam War Memorial. That was a nice little event. Councilor Davis was there as well and participated with the fire department. So that was nice. And so thank you to Irene Brashears for her efforts in putting that event together. And I do believe that that is all I have tonight, because all of my liaison assignment stuff is later in the month. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Councilor Davis.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Parks, Park and Rec, their projects are moving along real well. I appreciate Jerry's efforts in regards to making sure that they stay on target. Auburn Farms is on its way. Public engagement maybe sometime in November. The consulting firm has already received the information from the public. So Legacy Park, Jerry promises it will be done by June. So that's moving right along. We will be ready to go in the July for Maple Street Park for the turfing and the lights, and what the council has approved on that. So that's moving right along. And Kara continues to work on the park trees and bench program. More to come on that as well. Jerry's submitting the priorities out of the park master plan for us in regards to what's up next for next year's budget on the capital improvement plan, Way Park master plan, Maple Street Park, including new playground equipment, basketball courts, and possible extended parking, ADA walkways or ADA access to community park. And we are also continuing to keep the dog park at the top of our list, especially as we look at Walnut Street extension and bypass up there for the possible location of a dog park. And then, of course, Cogeo and the athletic fields, just keeping that on our list for moving those projects forward. But if you haven't been down to Community Park, please go down there. Those bathrooms really look good. I went down there the other day, and the extended parking that we have down there for emergency access and stuff, they did a really nice job down there. So, end of my report.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Stearns.
I won't be meeting with any of my committees until a little later on. The one thing that I just wanted, it's on my mind and on the mind of everybody who I talk to, which is probably not a surprise and probably not a lot we can do about, but is why is it we have two intersections blocked off for the 99 project, and why couldn't they just do one at a time? So that was the question that everybody wants to ask, because I have talked to people that have, especially downtown business, that are suffering a lot. I know personally I've stopped trying to even cross to the south side of the of 99, but yeah.
It's a mess.
That's the only thing I would like to bring up, even though.
Yeah, you're not here during the day. Try Ivy in a second, between 1 and 6. It's blocked up this way, it's blocked that way, it's lined up that way. It's terrible.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the necessity of having two at the
Territorial's
same
getting busy
time
now, too.
blocked off.
Jerry.
Do you have an answer, Jerry?
I mean, I don't know if there's an answer, but
Yeah, I don't know if
I
there's.
think the question, everybody's asking the question. but
Because ODOT.
Well, it is.
You know, a transit director's been working with ODOT a lot more than me on this one, so I call him up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're going to bring up Todd? Okay.
It is true, it affects him the most. I went to a meeting with him, was it last week? We talked, because it really messes his routes up. But the short story of why they're closing two at a time, it saves time. It's going to get done faster. It's painful now, but it speeds up. The good news is Grant's going to be opened up next week, but they're going to close Ivy and Elm. So it's going to get worse.
So Elm and Ivy will be closed starting next week?
They're trying, depending on the schedule, but yeah, it basically speeds up the whole process to beat that October deadline of being paved and done. So, and we don't have a say in this.
No.
That's the best part. But yeah, it does, they're able to work faster, more efficiently, and get more done faster. It's painful now, but it speeds up the process. That's the answer that I received,
No. Gathered that.
if that makes sense.
Councilor Patton.
Two things about that real quick. One of the things that I got trapped in today is there was a K-Hoot truck that came up because I thought, oh, I'll be clever and I'll take Pine. No. So they stopped just before the railroad tracks because there's not enough room for a truck on the other side of the railroad tracks. And apparently the sensors in that area have been disabled. So we sat behind the truck for 3 cycles of the light.
Yeah.
So traffic was backed all the way up to the fairgrounds and down Pine. And it wasn't until a car came down South Pine in front of Canby Builders to then get that light to trip so that everybody, well, some of us could go. So I don't know if there's something they could do, because if they're gonna close the Ivy and stuff down, more people are gonna go that way. The other thing is I've noticed that now big rigs, in an effort, because Grant is closed off, are coming down Pine through town to get to the industrial park. So I don't know if that's supposed to be happening or if there's some signage that could be put out. I don't know.
We struggled with that. And then when we had the Easter egg hunt, we also had to close that area at Waite Park. So we were running, luckily it was spring break, and we were running all the trucks out Cedar and around to Knights Bridge and out around to Territorial, but we don't like running them by the school. And so that's why they're going down 3rd Avenue and going out. But that intersection's a nightmare for them to get out on.
I saw one trying to turn on.
And so if it turns into a big problem, what we could do is we could talk to the school, communicate with them, and send all the trucks out Cedar and Knights Bridge, not over the bridge, but we got to make sure, because it's got weight restrictions now because of its problems, and then out Territorial. But we really didn't want to get too involved and start sending trucks into downtown, into our residential area. So, no, it's a mess. My recommendation, if you want to get around town fast, you ride with Jim Davis or George Stroh, because they have lights and they can get through. But other than that, it's slow.
Well, I have found it actually easier to go out of my house than across Knights Bridge down to Barlow and then up to like the Safeway area and stuff.
Our
It's
downtown
crazy.
business,
Actually faster, yeah.
our downtown people, if they need something like from Ace Hardware, they're going to Wilsonville right now, if they're on this side. So it's tough. But if you do see light issues, stuff like that, let Eileen or I know. And Helen's really great with ODOT on being responsive and working with us on stuff. But
Do we have a time frame of when they'll open up at least the intersections, or is that basically whenever they're done?
Do you want to add it? You got a current update on that? 3 weeks, yeah. And
That's what Jose said.
And what they're doing is they're finishing these sections. When they start going, they're going to pave them and be done in sections. So they're not going to have to go back and do this again. They're going to try to complete the project. So we'll, as Todd has more meetings, because it's going to affect him, we'll try to have more updates for you guys and pass on any information through the city administrator if we have updates.
Thank you.
Yep. Can I ride with you tomorrow so I can get
Sure,
around?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so, and we have a contact number that you gave us for ODOT and stuff as well, but.
Has she been responsive with you?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty good, but what we're finding is they put the barrels up in the curbs and stuff, and the people line up there, there's absolutely no place for them to go when we're trying to get through there with lights and siren. So we have to divert all the way around, period. We cannot use 99. We even have to go down and come around to come back.
Gotcha.
Because there's no place for traffic to go, so we feel bad for the people because they'd like to get out of our way, but there's no way, there's no place to go.
Okay, well, keep us posted.
Yeah.
Counselor Davis, if we need to do something with city.
Sure.
So this is a project that's still looking to be done this year?
Yeah, October.
Okay.
And paved and done, and then we're getting ready to start South Ivy, so that went out to bid. So hopefully that, we're kind of complete, and then we start doing traffic control and stuff on South Ivy. And so I think the timing is going to work out. And then the update, I think, Counselor Hensley, tell me if I'm wrong, but something like October of '25, they're looking at doing the bridge.
I thought it was summer, but yeah.
Or summer
next year.
of, yeah, and so we're hoping that we're going to get lucky and they're going to be staggered enough that it isn't complete
We're
gridlock
hoping it's
around here.
next year. Actually, we should have county talk to us again, the TSC, because I think they were gonna, it was supposed to be last year, they bumped it to this year. But I
Yeah.
think they're bumping it again, but I'm not positive.
Could
I hope
be.
so, because we can't have it closed this summer, that'd be a nightmare.
Yeah,
So-
and so, yeah, which there's a lot
I'll
of
have
people.
Bob reach
that-
out to that contact he had.
And
with
you
county.
saw that, you're in the email too, if you want to reach out. Joe Merrick's kind of he kind of takes care of us from Clackamas County. He's been around forever and he's real responsive. And he's also working on that controlled turn at 13th, which we could use right now because it's really bad right now. So that's a budgeting thing that they're going to work on and bring, and just do the upgrade to that signal after July. So we're going to stay on them. We have the traffic safety committees staying on them and reminding me to keep pestering them about it.
Okay. Thanks, Trey.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Question. Counselor Sassy.
I forget, was I supposed to talk about something now? Oh, yeah, it is my turn. So I had a Heritage and Landmark meeting. There was a robust three of us, again, Tyler, myself, and one member. They just got the survey draft back for the new downtown buildings that are now eligible to come onto the list. For the Archway time capsule, Karis Heritage Landmark, they're going to come down. Tyler would like to have some board members from our group to come down just to have tents up for recognition and information booths. And I said, what you need to do maybe is take this and the older one, these master plans, and put those in the capsule. Because I have a feeling in 50 years, we're all gone. Who's going to know what building was what? I mean, it's already getting to that point, so.
That's a good idea.
That's all we had for that. Good 15 minutes of robust meeting, and that was it. So I do have a new liaison. I'm going to report on our baseball team. We just beat the third-ranked team in the state last night, 8-7.
Nice.
So we should probably be in the top 6 or 7 by the end of the week.
Fantastic.
So there you go. And I'm with you, Counselor Patton, on the beer library. I've been on this from day one. I don't think it was handled right from day one. I complained to Jerry a year ago, get the fencing at least out of the parking. At least put it up on the sidewalk, but don't take away parking. We don't have enough parking as it is. So here we are back again now, and Saturday market's going, and people were not happy, and so I'm glad you brought it up, because it's not the greatest issue. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Is the fencing up on the street?
New segment. That's so sassy. Uh-oh. Something's burning down.
The fencing is not blocking the parking in the front of the building?
Not anymore.
But I can't remember if it's blocking it on the side.
I think it's on the side the last I looked.
Yeah.
It is.
It's on the side.
And my guess is they have to tear some of that low walls out there along
Third.
Third
Third, yeah.
and whatever. that is.
Supposedly, they're going to start
Huh?
working on
Ollie.
Third Avenue on that
Is
side,
it-
but
Yeah, Third and Holly.
Can they just put the fence up when they're actually working and not?
Yeah, that would be nice too.
I mean, just.
When was the last time
just
someone
saying.
was actually there doing something?
I mean, there has been work done in the area that's going to be the tap room. I've looked through the fence and seen that there is something in there. But it just is, no.
So, council, what would you like in terms of a report back on the beer library? Would you like a work session? Would you like just a report back at your next meeting? I just want to make sure that staff is being responsive
I would like to hear from the owner.
from the owner.
Just
He's
have him
been here
come
before.
talk to us. Yeah, he's come before with change orders.
Yeah, for me, I would like the owner to come here and give us an explanation as to what's going on and keep us up to date. And I think that I think all things considered, that it is completely reasonable for the stake that the city has in this project, that if there are any major changes in the timeline, that we are updated on those. So that when the community asks us what's going on with that building and why it looks like a dump, I might be exaggerating, we can definitively say, we have gotten information from the owners of that business and this is what they say, rather than saying, well, the last I heard is this, because then we sound like morons. And I do a good enough job of that myself. I don't need someone helping me with it. So that's what I would like to see.
Okay. Got it.
Anyone else want to piggyback on that?
No, it sums it up for me.
Everybody seems to be
I'm
distracted.
hearing an update from the owner.
I guess so.
We will make it happen.
Okay. City Administrator Business and Staff Report.
I have a few updates for you, Council. Earlier today, I emailed you information on Medford's Lithia and Driveway Fields project, so hopefully you received that. If not, look in your email for that. Talked about how they're supporting that project, and it is quite a bit subsidized by the general fund, as you'll see. Did meet with the school superintendent regarding the Ackerman building and the adult community center project. We met this morning. I think the school district is open to continuing to discuss what the possibilities are out on that site. So I felt very good about that. Just wanted to point out that you have laminated goals at your places, so stick those in your drawer or do with them whatever you would like to do with them. And just note that your work session next week, or on the 17th, is a joint meeting with the Planning Commission. So we will figure out how to accommodate that, but it is a joint meeting. So that's all I have.
So regarding the beer library, are there code pieces that they are violating currently with the fencing around the building?
I don't know. I will look into that.
Okay. Because I would think that if there's an ADA issue, then definitely we should be addressing those. Aesthetically speaking, I think, yes, I agree. This project is taking longer than anticipated for whatever reason. I still think it's going to be a great thing when it's done for our downtown. It's just taking us a while to get there. What I think coming back, Eileen, maybe that could be something from Ms. Stickle and from you about, like, what is our current investment in this project? Because my understanding is I don't know if we have much anymore in this project, other than that it was our building and it's not anymore. So I don't know what other than we did this with the intent and we had a great idea and presented to us and we went with it. And then, to your point, it has changed, but I don't know what recourse we have.
Well, I think for me, it's like, to be honest with you, the way the building has looked, the debris that's been around it, the fence blocking the sidewalk for as long as it has, a lot of that stuff I have to believe is code violations. And I think that in an effort to get that project done, the city has been very for giving, for putting up with all that stuff. And I understand that, this is now owned by them, this building is now owned by them, and it's really not within the city's purview to summons a business owner here to give us an update on their building. But this is a hybrid situation. This is not like someone renovating one of the other buildings in the city.
And I guess-
We had a stake, the city had a stake in this building.
We did.
The city council made a decision to sell this building to this individual with the understanding that it was going to have a rooftop patio, was going to have micro kitchens. He already had people who had signed up that were going to take over the retail spaces and all that stuff. I was not on the council, but I was here for that presentation.
I was as well.
And that was the dream that was sold to that council at the time. And so my question is, if you go into the Wayback Machine and they had presented this new version, would the council have been interested in selling them the property for the price that they did for that kind of project? I mean, when I was on planning commission, one of the big concerns I had with that building was they were talking about this rooftop patio, and when they brought the proposal forward, there was no elevator. And I'm like, well, how are you providing ADA accessibility to this patio? And I was told, oh, well, it's not necessary. Well, I might not be really up to date on ADA standards, but that really didn't make any sense. So that's why I'm saying that in the future, if the city's going to do these things and a person comes to them and says this is what needs to happen, then there needs to be some more information fleshed out.
And again, I don't disagree with you. I think we're getting into two distinct areas. One, making sure that we've got the proper barriers or guidelines in place. That's one conversation. It is highly unusual for us, I think, to be belaboring a business owner's progress on their project. If there are code pieces, then we should be looking into that. Absolutely. And I think that they need to be held to those code standards and make the adjustments that they need to make for whatever code pieces are. I think we're treading into dangerous territory when we're up here criticizing a business and their project to the extent that we have been. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. I don't disagree with where it was and where it is. Where it was in love with it. Absolutely couldn't have asked for a better project to put on that corner in our downtown. It is not that anymore. For whatever reason, do we have control over that? I don't think that we do. Going forward, yeah, if we own a piece of dirt and we're going to do something, then maybe we live and we learn. This is just a very uncomfortable and unpleasant learning experience. Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a thought. I see both of your points. I totally agree with you. I also agree with you. It's not our job as government to tell a business developer how to develop his business. However, this is an individual who's hoping to have good rapport in this town and have his business be successful. And people are asking and people are irritated. And so I think, Eileen, you could probably finesse your invitation to him in a way that the people want to hear from him on an update because they're eager to see this open and they want to know what the progress is. And then we can ask questions when he's here. I don't think we have to go at it like we're demanding an update because, I know he's exaggerating a little bit.
You don't want it to be
We don't need to do that. But I think you can extend the invitation in a way that the community is eager to hear about it.
I was thinking of the time where you said when the K-Hoop folks were here and I was asking them questions about the thing and later on you said it seemed like a congressional inquiry. I promise that I will check myself and it won't be anything like that.
No orange papers full of questions.
There will not be a bunch of orange papers filled with questions. But the other thing is that I'm really agitated that they're throwing the planning department under the bus. I think that's totally uncalled for.
And I would concur with that too, but.
Councilor Davis, you had a question for Eileen.
Yeah. Eileen, any update on the CAC? I know that you were meeting with Kathy. Have we made any progress with the construction of, out there? With the Canby Adult Center?
I have, we are, I have forgotten.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's, yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
wondering, I know that you had coffee with Kathy the other day.
Yeah, we did. And we talked about what is required to submit a BRIC grant
Oh,
for
got it.
this next year. It's coming back now. What is critical, speaking of critical, the adult center is listed in the county's natural hazard mitigation plan.
Right,
As an essential facility.
right.
And what we heard back from our application for BRIC funding for this year
Right.
was that it didn't qualify because it wasn't a critical facility. It was just listed as an
As
essential.
an essential facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are, Jamie did reach out to the county. I noticed an email today that she's clarifying. Do we need to change the definition of the project to a critical facility? Can we change the definition of the project to a critical facility? Or if we go forward in applying for the next round of BRIC grants, is there a possibility that, a facility that's listed as essential could be funded?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's what we're trying to sort out.
Yeah.
So thank you for allowing the thoughts to come flooding back into my
Well, thanks for
mind.
continuing your discussions with Kathy on that.
My pleasure.
Very much appreciated. And then
Yeah.
I know that Belinda sent over to Jamie Stickle that there was an investor possibly interested in a hotel in Canby.
Mm-hmm.
And so that information was sent over to Jamie Stickle to follow up on.
And she is following up on that.
Okay, yeah, if she could keep us posted on that, on how that's going, because it's on one of our goals.
Yeah, will do.
Thank you.
All right. Item 13, citizen input. No. Seeing none. Maya, action review.
You've approved the consent agenda and adopted ordinance number 1619.
All in an hour and 45 minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maya. I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Canby, motion passes. Canby, have a great evening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.